All right, good afternoon. I'm with John Lee, CEO of CleanTech Vanadium Mining Corporation. The symbol is CTV on the TSX Venture. John, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. Good morning.
So we're going to learn some new things today. We're going to get into some new minerals that I haven't really studied before. So tell us about your company and what is it focused on?
Right, Robert. First of all, my name is John Lee. I have over 25 years of experience in the mining industry. First 10 years as a mining investor, like many of your audience, from 2000 and 2010. And after the financial crisis in 2011, around 2010, 2011, I started a company called Silver Elephant. And I thought it would be interesting to start out as a hobby, running a mining company junior. And it turned out 15 years later, and I'm still at it. It's been full-time job, double full-time job for the last 15 years. Raised over $150 million through the Toronto Stock Exchange. And 3 years ago, Silver Elephant spun out CleanTech Vanadium. So all the critical mineral U.S. focused assets, namely vanadium and now fluorspar, is the focus of CleanTech. While Silver Elephant, which I'm also the CEO, retains some of the non-U.S. assets, namely silver assets in Bolivia and some legacy coal assets in Mongolia.
I see. Okay. So the company name is kind of a misnomer because you have several assets inside this company.
Right. The company, everything was umbrella under Silver Elephant. So Silver Elephant has made over a dozen acquisitions over the last 15 years. So as I mentioned, the critical minerals assets in the U.S. was spun out into CleanTech, which is the principal assets was vanadium, which Elephant had acquired and spent $30 million in developing in Battle Mountain region in Nevada since 2017, 2018. So it's been 7 years in the company. And just in the past year, CleanTech has branched out this vertical into fluorspar space, which is also in the United States. Majority of these assets are in the Illinois Kentucky Fluorspar belt, where 90% of the historical U.S. fluorspar mining production took place.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely want to get into the fluorspar because obviously that's the company's flagship asset now. But what happened with the other projects in the Battle Mountain trend? What's going on with those?
Yes, well, vanadium is also classified as a critical minerals by USGS, U.S. government. And we started the vanadium project in 2017, I believe in July of 2017. Over $25 million being spent on it. It is one of the very few greenfield mining projects that received the positive record decision from the Bureau of Land Management. So that is a federal approval for startup of the mining activities in the United States. And it is the only greenfield vanadium project, principal vanadium project that has received the approval to go ahead. The project is on standby right now, Robert, because vanadium prices, because 70% of the vanadium is used for steel rebar, construction related. And China has had a bit of a hiccup in the last 5 years in its construction industries and economies are still struggle to recover from COVID. So it's had a bit of a correction. And so it is an optionality on the vanadium play. Vanadium is used not only for steel rebar construction, but also for high-tech alloys and redox batteries. So we started getting into vanadium because the redox batteries angle. The vanadium batteries consumption and usage and demand has grown multiple fold, but because of this construction slowdown, put a bit of a ceiling on the vanadium prices, and that's part of the reason that CleanTech branching into fluorspar and starting into researching and targeting and evaluating fluorspar's assets just about this time last year. which culminated into the first acquisition by CleanTech into this Illinois Kentucky Fluorspar District in July of this year, about 5 months ago.
So the Gibellini, asset in the Battle Mountain Trend, you said $30 million has been spent on that asset to advance it to approval from the BLM, but now the project is on hold because of the market environment for the metal. And so what's the carrying cost to the company for that asset?
Oh, it's very minimal. There is no commitment. There's no commitment to spend money on the project. So there is about an annual upkeep of licenses. It's not cheap in Nevada. That's close to about $150,000. And the reason the amount is quite high because the company, Robert, we are expert in mergers and acquisitions. In the last 7 years, we have managed to assemble arguably the largest vanadium belt in the United States, over 21 kilometers strike. So it's what I call a generational assets. There is probably enough vanadium there to supply the need of the United States for generations to come. And right now, I will stand by is one word, but you can also call the project shovel ready, meaning that pending higher vanadium prices, all it takes is a few other state permits, which are not major impediments. Then it's a matter of getting excavators and building a plant to process and produce vanadium.
Has a feasibility study been carried out on this project?
Yes, the feasibility study is being carried out in the project, but that might require update because the prices, current vanadium prices being outdated, and it's done, almost 10 years ago.
I see. Okay. Is the company pursuing, any potential federal government grants or loans or anything to assist in the advancement of that asset?
Yeah, Robert, there's a lot of noise. Well, not a lot of noise. There's signals from the federal government for a whole array of available grants and loans and news releases. We've been looking into that area, but our experience has long been that at least under the Biden administration is trying to get money from government is sometimes worse than pulling teeth out. It's like going to the dentist, and it's never easy. There are a huge arrays of qualifications, requirements, a lot of different areas we have to satisfy. There's literally dozens of programs, and so it's not a small undertaking. But that's definitely something that we are studying, we're researching, not only for the vanadium project but also for the fluorspar project in Kentucky.
Okay, so let's talk about fluorspar. So Kentucky, that's a state we don't often think about for mining in the U.S., but there are actually some mines there. There is a bit of mining activity in the state of Kentucky. So first of all, John, tell the audience, what is fluorspar? Why should we care at all about fluorspar?
Yeah, it is one of these. It's what I call a Batman and Robin. It's a Robin to the Batman, kind of like rare earth. Right? You don't hear much about it, but you cannot do without. Fluorspar has embarked on a bull market. The prices went up more than 400% since year 2000, and it's gone up more than 50% since 2022. When China has turned into a major, when China has turned from a major exporter to become a net importer, and China produced over 60% of the world fluorspar, together with Mongolia, that's another 10%. So Mongolia and China account for 70% of the fluorspar supply, global supply. Now the question is, why do I care about fluorspar? Fluorspar is really all to do with energy production and energy storage. Robert, I think the first when EVs and this electric vehicles and battery technology first come on stream, it's almost 10 years ago, and people were really hyping on lithium batteries and looking into the different elements that make up the batteries and making a lot of investments in both lithium as well as in the cathode and the anode of these batteries. And these are transition metals like graphite, nickel, cobalt, manganese, and now iron and soon sodium. But one of the unsung hero is fluorspar, which is electrolyte by the name of hexafluorophosphate, of which you're dissolving the lithium in the batteries. So in short, every lithium atom requires 6 fluorspar atoms to be married as a salt, as a medium of which the lithium can move within the batteries. And that is the principal driver for the recent sort of a more exponential rise in fluorspar. But historically, 30% of the fluorspar is used to enrich uranium. So, Robert, the way to sort of analyze or imagine is fluorspar is a highly reactive element, and that's why it's what I call the Victoria's Secret model. Now it's able to even get the nerves to get the attention from the nerves, which is uranium, which is a very inactive, very heavy item. Every uranium requires 6 fluorine, which fluorspar is precursor, to enrich uranium, to gasify uranium. And from there, once uranium is in the gaseous form, which is UF6, uranium hexafluoride, then you do the centrifuge process. Basically, you kind of do it like a household dryer, and of which you would separate the lighter uranium, the fissile uranium U-235, from the heavier uranium 238, and it's the U-235 that is used for the nuclear fuel. So the stable consumption for fluorspar has been uranium, as well as fluxing agent for steel and aluminum production to create a protection layer from oxidation, and also for refrigerants, your Teflon, your medicine, fluoridated water. About 30% of the pharmaceutical pills have fluoride ingredients, and it's also used for agriculture. So there is probably over 30 very sort of mission critical application used for fluorspar. But right now, the principal, I would say the top 3 or even top 4 usage for fluorspar is energy storage, uranium enrichment, and aluminum and steel fluxing agent. And then there is also the semiconductor and solar panels that also require fluorspar to etch the silicon in texturing the silicon to optimize light absorption in the case of solar panels, and in the case of semiconductors, you're imprinting, right? All this textures, wafers, all of that require fluorspar, Robert.
Very interesting. That was a good overview, a good lesson on fluorspar. So in preparation for this interview, I did a little research on fluorspar. U.S. doesn't mine any fluorspar anymore. We did many decades ago, including, I believe, at one of your assets that the company owns today. But those closed a long time ago. They closed decades ago. So we get most of our fluorspar from Mexico, Vietnam, China. Yeah, so it's all imported. So what's your vision? What's the CTV vision for fluorspar in the United States?
Well, we're going to rewrite. The vision is to rewrite the chapter, American fluorspar chapter, to rejuvenate and create a new renaissance of this fabulous, well undercovered Illinois Kentucky Fluorspar District. Robert, you're right. The fluorspar production in the U.S. stopped in the 70s when China started flooding the market, and the situation is extremely bullish, Robert. The reason is China. I would say it's almost a deja vu, or it's going to be an exact replay of rare earth. Nobody talked about rare earth 2 years ago, and rare earth stocks more than 7 times in the past 12 months. China has 60 years of rare earth reserves, but has less than 5 years of fluorspar reserves. And if you Google China fluorspar acquisitions, China is getting into an outright frantic mode right now. After COVID restrictions were lifted 3 years ago, they started going outbound, going after all the fluorspar they can get hold of, so in terms of the competitive landscape, you're right. Mexico produced only world's 10% of the fluorspar, and China is turning into an importer, and Mongolia is a number 3 of supplier. But now you're looking at China and Mongolia that account for 70%. They're gone, and every other country, Korea, Germany, Japan, United States, South America, Canada, all rely on Mexican fluorspar and limited quantity of Vietnamese fluorspar in order to continue to power the economy. And so therefore the district, Robert, like you talked about, supplied 90% of the fluorspar in the United States. So last time the district was mostly active was during the World War II, when United States relied on the fluorspar in Kentucky and Illinois for their weaponry construction, in steel making, in tanks, in weapons. And since then, there has not been any fluorspar production in the last 50 years. And in the case of Kentucky, there has not been an active mining operation in the last almost 20 years.
Very interesting. So, looking at the CTV corporate presentation, I'm drawn to slide 6, which shows the location of the CTV Fluorspar Projects in Kentucky. And it's also in proximity to the Honeywell UF6 plant in Illinois and the Arkema hydrofluoric acid plant in Kentucky. So these are big companies. I mean, Honeywell, very big company. Why did these big companies not get interested in your fluorspar projects? What had them say, no, we don't need fluorspar in the U.S.?
Well, Robert, we're under confidentiality, so I'm not gonna sort of allude to whether these companies are interested in our project at this very moment in time. And there's not only Honeywell, but there is some of the largest steel makers, aluminum makers, some of the largest chemical companies in Teflon and refrigerant. There's a number of battery companies like LG, Mitsubishi, Tesla that are building battery factories in the United States. So the district was explored by Honeywell. There's actually public available information. So Honeywell had a very big presence in this district in 2015, and so did Alcoa, for example. So many of these companies, well-known household names in the United States, had purchased fluorspar from the district, decades ago. And some of them also expended efforts in exploring and looking into permitting and extracting fluorspar to meet their demands. I think every company has a different philosophy in terms of securing the supply chain. I mean, Honeywell is a chemical company and nuclear plant operator, so they're not in the mining business. And mining businesses really take a special set of skills, not only in technical, in knowing how to mine it, how to extract, how to process it, but also in permitting, right? Legal, not only technical, but legal. So the legal part is all about negotiating service rights with community stakeholders, getting state and federal permits, getting a lot of different environmental baseline studies approved. And the last but not least is the financial aspects of it, which obviously Honeywell is very capable. I think some of the maybe obstacles or some of the resistance or some of the challenges that Honeywell faced at the time 10 years ago was probably most likely technical and legal related. Not only that, because China was dumping fluorspar back in the days around 2015, and so Mexico was buying for American fluorspar consumers, and I believe that Mexico was offering its fluorspar at a very hefty discount to market prices to secure the customers. But the chapters, Robert, have flipped. Not only is China no longer a competitor to fluorspar, but China is even considering purchasing fluorspar from Mexico. And so therefore, the discount that Mexico used to offer to gain that competitive advantage have all but evaporated. I think there's even circumstances where Mexican fluorspar is selling at premium to Chinese fluorspar, given its geo proximity to North American market, and that some of the fluorspar export maybe it's a taboo for some of the U.S. consumers. So the landscape, the chapter is turning like completely 180, and now we're seeing interesting phenomena. I've been reached out by some of the American fluorspar consumers. Say, John, I'm so glad that you go into this area. We've been long waiting for somebody to consolidate the district, and then what they're specialized in. So what we're doing, Robert, I want to just expand on a couple of minutes on exactly what CleanTech is doing. Is really doing a lot of data consolidations. We have warehouses of papers back from almost 100 years ago, right? These drills, assays, production, engineering studies, mine plans, and in a short while, in the last 5 months, CleanTech already assembled mineral rights that greater than Manhattan in size, over 17,000 acres, over 20 different distinct deposits that had various degrees of exploration and mining production history in the past. So right now we're just gathering all of that data and started not so much educating, but make the public aware, both from investors' point of view, but also from the American consumer point of view, on dispelling any misnomers about the district, and just to bring to public aware the knowledge that there is tremendous amount of fluorspar in the district. And I want to just give one quick example. This 20 different distinct deposits that CleanTech has in the district, which spans over 17,000 acres, greater than the center of Manhattan, had over 745 drill holes, 745, and over close to 10 million tons of historical fluorspar resources in the ground. And of course, their measuring standards are not up to modern standards, and these resource numbers need to be validated and independently qualified and verified. But Robert, like, I'm 51. In my lifetime, we're not going to do justice for these mineral rights that we have acquired in my lifetime. And the annual U.S. fluorspar consumption is about 500,000 tons a year right now. So just the tonnages that we have assembled, the resources, is more than enough to power American fluorspar consumption for decades to come.
It's very interesting. So let's go back to fluorspar. So it's a strategic nuclear fuel, material. It's a critical mineral. It's been classified as critical and strategic by the United States. Yet the U.S. has no domestic production of fluorspar. How does that make sense? Can you explain to me why, this is the case?
Well, Robert, the mining industry has been well undercover, right? And especially countries like like Canada, Australia, not so much Australia, but Canada, Europe, and even certain parts of the United States, like California and elsewhere, are running into this dichotomy of wanting to benefit from the metals to power the new modern economy, but yet I want to have safeguards to protect the environment. So it's a very, very delicate issue, and it's been put away for 20 years while everybody was continue to consume commodities, but yet U.S. probably doesn't produce 2/3 of the periodic table, of which it all requires. So the case is not just for fluorspar. Vanadium is another example of which U.S. has no vanadium production, but it's critical. Every spaceship, every airplane, every missile, every tank require vanadium. And the list goes on. Germanium. There is a list of 35 critical minerals that the United States produce very little to next to none. Even nickel, for example, U.S. produce very limited amount of nickel. Certainly not enough to fulfill the EV mandate. So all in all, just a general neglect, ignorance of the sector by the public. However, there has been a major shift in active encouragement and in active managing of the strategic critical mineral supply under this new administration. You are seeing now the Trump administration is directly procuring these critical minerals through the logistics Department of Logistics agency for Department of Energy, stockpiling, and Department of War, which used to be Department of Defense. And in the case of fluorspar, they actually started tender fluorspar. I think started out of 25 million, but now the number has gone up to over 100 million. If I'm not wrong, to rebuild a strategic stockpile that was discarded and sold out 20 years ago. So definitely there is a concerted effort to make American critical minerals independence again, to establish the independence of critical mineral supply.
Okay, so to be clear, fluorspar is critical for the production of hydrofluoric acid, and hydrofluoric acid is critical in many industries, including for nuclear fuel. So tell us about the CTV project in Kentucky. Tell us about some of the key aspects of the fluorspar that you find at this project. I know that metallurgy and purity is very important for fluorspar.
Yes. So Robert, you're right that hydrofluoric acid is required to react with uranium oxide coming out of the ground, to levitate uranium into uranium hexafluoride, which is a gaseous form for the uranium enrichment to happen, to extract and concentrate the U-235 as a form of nuclear fuel. But Robert, that demand has been steady at around 35% of the fluorspar overall usage in the last 20 years. For example, the United States hasn't had a new nuclear power plant erected in the last 20 years. The biggest driver for fluorspar right now, that I see, is not only for EV batteries, but energy storage. I'm sure you read something about all this artificial intelligence, OpenAI and Grok and Microsoft and Oracle and now Google is building these data centers and buying $1 trillion chips in the next 5 years by just OpenAI, one company. And the story that's not being told or not being fully realized or reflected is that there's going to require the power consumption in the United States have to multiply from where we stand today in order to accommodate for all this AI power.
Nuclear energy, that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yes, electricity is going to have to multiply production. And that electricity production is not going to come from nuclear. You cannot build a nuclear power plant fast enough. A nuclear power plant is going to take 10 years to build today, because since Fukushima, a modern nuclear power plant require withstand the impact of a 737 jumbo jet. And so all the new power today, Robert, is coming from solar energy. But the issue with solar energy is that there is no energy when the sun doesn't shine. So now companies are racing to build these energy storage devices, started out with lithium. But now there is a sodium-ion batteries, it's called the SIB, that can be manufactured and produced at around 30% of the lithium batteries cost. And it's more stable, it's not inflammable. And so these sodium batteries are popping up everywhere. In China, they're building tens of gigawatts of these sodium-ion batteries. Elon Musk and Tesla is building tens of gigawatts of lithium batteries in the United States, and soon will be sodium-ion batteries as the sodium-ion batteries technology matures and costs continue to go down at around 30 cents a kilowatt hour. And all these batteries, Robert, require fluorspar as electrolyte for the lithium ions to swim in and for the sodium ion to swim in. This is where all the demand is going to come from. So fluorspar is sitting in the epicenter of this AI revolution. And the ramification of this AI revolution is extremely profound, Robert. I will give you an example as I'm reading this AI technology now. And I think it's crucial that information be shared. OpenAI is not going to be the dominant force 5 years from now. You know who's going to be? It's going to be Tesla and Google. Tesla right now has their satellite internet, right? Of which our company actually use for remote access. So every airplane is going to have all these Tesla, what do you call it? All this satellite internet readiness, and then all of that's going to be incorporated into robots with mechanical robots. So that's going to do 90% of your job, including cooking, cleaning, doing chores, running around, taking care of elderlies, and acting as an assistant. So this is going to be, there's going to be billions of robots 10 or 20 years from now. And all of that has to be powered somehow. And that power is going to come from solar energy coupled with energy storage. And then the other major AI players entering the scene is Google, because Google is now producing chips at around 20% of the cost of NVIDIA. And all your Google, all your YouTube, Gemini, Chrome, and all of that is going to be all integrated into a system to help you with the day-to-day. But all of that require power. So this is really the biggest principal driver, and that's why we're extremely bullish of fluorspar going forward, because it is there's no substitute for fluorspar as an electrolyte for all these batteries that's needed to produce and store power. Now, let's go to this Kentucky Fluorspar District. Yep.
Yeah. Let's go back to the asset. So that was a good explanation, but let's talk about the asset and why this is valuable, because the mining skeptic brain will say, these are old mines, all the fluorspar is gone. The old timers mined it all, it's worthless. So how do we know that there's still valuable fluorspar there?
There are over 740 drill holes, Robert, and even with these drill holes, only around 10% of the areas of the size of Manhattan, which is under our option and control, has been drilled or mined. So we know as a fact that a lot of the mineral resources, some of the resources being mined, but majority of the resources only have been explored. So I mean, while the company are not in possession of a 43101 or JORC compliant resource estimate or resource report, but we're very confident examining the historical reports and the drill logs and also from recent site visits that there is a tremendous amount of fluorspar still underground in the areas of which they're under our control. In the recent site visit taking place just about 6 weeks ago, there are abandoned shafts, of this 100 feet shaft, 200 feet shaft. You can literally stare down, you can see fluorspar. And there is millions of tons of waste and tailings material on surface. Remember, the historical mining methods and recovery methods are quite antiquated. So I don't think there's any question that there's a lot of fluorspar. Some are deeper, some are more closer to surface. So one of the things the company is doing right now is to prioritize digitizing the record, first of all, consolidating all that information, and then prioritize to find the best deposits, based on the grades, based on the accessibility, based on the reception from the local community, their stance towards mining. Most of them are positive. To designate or to select the best candidate to accelerate the project into production.
Okay, very good. And I know the metallurgy and the purity of the fluorspar is very important. Do you have data on the metallurgy?
We have historical data. There hasn't been any metallurgical studies done in the last at least 10 years. Honeywell might have done some, have done some studies. Alcoa had also owned some of the projects that we operated, as well as other mining companies like Arkema, which is a chemical company that acquired some of the fluorspar properties. We're very comfortable with the metallurgical study. We're quite comfortable with the recoverability and the ability to produce high-grade fluorspar out of the district. And the reason is it has been done before. Over 10 million tons of fluorspar has come out of the ground in this district. And the district measures around 400 square miles, 20 by 20 miles by 20 miles. So it's the resources are not heterogeneous. Some are heavier, some are higher grade, and some are lower grade. Some has rare earth byproducts, some has zinc and silver. So we're not going to say that. I think while we're confident that we can find the project that best suits the different needs of fluorspar applications, but we're quite confident that we can find the project that can produce high-grade fluorspar to satisfy the market demand. And like I said, the reason we know that is because it's been done before already.
Okay, so I agree. Fluorspar is a very important topic. It's definitely way underappreciated and way under the radar. You know, considering that I'm a mining guy, and I didn't really know what fluorspar was until a week ago. That tells you a lot. I also agree that this is a very impressive asset, very under the radar mining asset in the middle of the U.S. In actually a very good location near nuclear fuel plant and a hydrofluoric acid plant and a bunch of other, big industrial, key infrastructure in the heart of the U.S. So what's the catch, John? Like, tell me about the company. Tell me about the share structure of the company. Who are the largest shareholders of the company? How much money do you need to advance this asset?
Robert, there's no catch. We started the first Fluorspar acquisition in July, and I come on a couple of interviews in August. I said, and you can Google me. I have appeared on hundreds of YouTube videos in the last 15 years. In August, I came on a couple of programs, and I was pounding my chest, saying that this is a 10-bagger. This is the best Fluorspar. This is the best mining investment opportunities I've ever seen in my 25 years in career in mining. In the mining industry. And back then the stock was $5 million market cap at 3 cents. In 2 months later, it started from 3 cents, 5 cents to 50 cents.
Did it go up because of your interview, or what caused the big rise in the share price?
Yeah, and I think it's a combination of public awareness, not into just fluorspar, but critical minerals in general. So we are caught as part of that storm in all the critical minerals, especially there's rare earth, there's lithium, there's germanium.
Yeah, the rare
antimony.
earth stocks had a very big move.
So if you track everything critical minerals, right? In August, everybody had that exponential parabolic rally. So the CleanTech just happened to be promoting at the time. So I think it's a combination of both the general market awareness and sort of interest in the critical mineral space with a particular focus in the United States. And that also that there is some discoveries of the fluorspar investment angle. And there are only 2 fluorspar companies with assets in the United States listed on the Toronto, on the US, on the OTC. So our stock went from nobody know anything to attempt, actually went to almost 20-bagger. In span of 3 months. So the market cap went from around 5 million to 80 million. We're settling right now at around 20 million, at around 17 cents. The selling has dried up, which creates a tremendous buying opportunity. The company has about $1 million in cash, excellent share structure, 140 million shares outstanding and 80 million shares float. Around 60 million shares are held by insiders, Silver Elephant shareholders. Because when Elephant spun out CleanTech, Elephant kept around 40% of the shares distributed to Elephant shareholders. So around 40% of the shares are very closely held. Monthly burn rate of $150,000 a month. We're winding down our acquisition, our acquisition trail. So we don't see imminent financing on this horizon. And earlier this year, starting earlier next year in first quarter, we're gonna put out a comprehensive project development plan and share with our stakeholders and shareholders. So that is about permitting, resource estimation, drilling, and maybe potentially some of the early stage collaborations with some of the key strategic fluorspar consumers, a number that have approached us. So there is a lot of the first buzz is kind of out of the way, and now I think investors are paying attention to critical minerals. And now the guys are they're a bit of a I think the empress that have to close is going to be embarking on a second run starting of 2026. And so now I think after sort of the first awareness peak is established, and it creates a great opportunity to establish your entry position.
Do you feel like CTV has had some tax loss selling come into the stock the last few weeks?
You know what? The company in the last 5 months, since July 2nd, and that includes the summer doldrum, is traded about 100 million shares. So that's more than 100% of turnover of the current flow out there. We don't know who owns the shares. And Bloomberg listed a couple of funds that institutions that has an equity stake around 3 to 5%, but we cannot verify that. But Robert, the company could embark on a deja vu of rare earth. I mean, some of the rare earth companies are now $10 billion market cap, and the assets in California have been recycled twice out of bankruptcies in only the last few years. So it just goes to show that when investors catch on, the action could be fast and furious. And these mineral rights are rock solid. It's been there for over 100 years. The district has infrastructure. Particularly in Kentucky, it's a red state. They're pro-mining. There's not grievance of environmental regulations like California and other parts of the U.S. that creates major challenges for the mines to be put in production. So therefore, we're going to be very aggressively evaluating these assets, especially some of the tailings and waste materials near surface, and potentially repurpose or rehabilitate some of the historical processing facilities to expedite the production timeline.
Let me ask you about news flow, because look, I'm a gold guy, I'm a copper guy, I'm a silver guy, and I think a lot of junior mining investors know how to read a set of results from a gold drill program. They know 10 grams over 10 meters is a good intercept, but fluorspar, I don't think anybody knows how to evaluate fluorspar. So tell us about what the news flow will look like from CTV in 2026, and how do you teach people about fluorspar, and how do they know what's good?
Yeah, so there are two questions that are being asked. One is, what is the company's plan? As I mentioned, right now we're busy digitizing the data, consolidating the data from the district, and winding down our acquisition trail. And in early 2026, we're going to put out a comprehensive development plan to bring the asset into production from exploration, from the technical aspect in mining processing, and some of the metallurgical study to be carried out in the start of the year, in permitting, announcing some of the permitting initiative that will be started by the company, and also get some better idea on the capital expenditure required to put the mine into production, and provide some guidance in terms of timeline to put these mines into production. So you could be looking at a lot of news flow. But really the major catalyst right now, Robert, in lifting the stock is just bring further awareness of this wonderful project and property and this fluorspar element into the center stage. And there is a massive valuation gap that needs to be filled. What I mean by that, Robert, is the Japanese are investing in Australian fluorspar at 10 times the valuation of what CleanTech's valuation currently is. And same our Chinese are buying Mongolian fluorspar properties at around $30 to $40 a ton of fluorspar in the ground. So similar projects in Australia, albeit they're 43101 JORC compliant, they're trading at a $300 million market cap. So the prior run-up of CleanTech at 80 million is actually quite well justified. My belief, and I could be wrong, is that when the market realized, first of all, that fluorspar is essential and critical in continue this AI boom and in energy production and storage, they're going to be looking at domestic fluorspar production, and they're going to be descending on this Illinois Kentucky Fluorspar District. And they're going to realize that CleanTech is the biggest elephant in town, with probably arguably the largest assembly of mineral rights greater than the size of Manhattan. And then they're going to be there. There's no other horses you can bet on in this district. Now, so the valuation gap needs to be bridged. News release on project development activities and plan will be shared. And then you talk about how do we assess the quality of a fluorspar project? It's not too complicated. The way you assess the quality is that fluorspar, the element symbol is CaF2, which is calcium fluoride, and that is the stuff you dig out of the ground. Once the calcium fluoride is dug out of the ground, the percentage of calcium fluoride in the ground in CleanTech's properties are anywhere from 10 to 80%. So that calcium fluoride needs to be floated, concentrated, kind of like you concentrate the a sulfide silver flotation plant, right? Same with copper, same with gold. So you grind it, you mill it, and then you do flotation to produce high grade calcium fluoride at around 85%. That would be a met spark, which could be fed into aluminum and steel plants. And when the grade gets up to 95%, and then that will be then that calcium fluoride concentrate would then be sold to hydrofluoric acid plant. From there, you basically you would pour sulfuric acid with the calcium fluoride to produce hydrofluoric acid. From there, the acid is now highly corrosive and it need to be situated nearby the uranium plants or chemical plants or battery plants to produce the next stage of the products. So, Robert, just one quick note. As I mentioned, as I said, if your audience is convinced that fluorspar, you got to have a stake in fluorspar. Like many of you maybe already have a stake in uranium miners. Then this district is the battle mountain for gold in the United States. This is the area. This is the zip code. This is the 90210 of Beverly Hills. You're going to be shopping luxuries. So this is the area you want to get in. And Silver Elephant is in the epicenter of the district, which is the epicenter of this AI revolution. Robert.
Very good. It makes sense. Final two questions, John. Tell me about how many shares of CTV management owns. Are there any other large shareholders you can tell us about?
Right. Around 40% of the CleanTech shares is held by a company called Oracle Commodity Holding. So Oracle was spun out from Silver Elephant at the same time that CleanTech was spun out from Silver Elephant. So rather than, so at that time, about 40 million shares were 40% of the shares. Well, let me see, 42% of the shares, just under, I need to make sure I remember the calculation. I think around 40 million shares or around 30% of the CleanTech shares were kept by Silver Elephant when CleanTech was spun out. But instead of Silver Elephant keeping the shares, Silver Elephant actually transferred those shares to another spin-out called Oracle, which is an investment company. So that those shares are not being sort of held hostage for an exploration company to be selling as a currency. So those shares being held by Oracle, which has no plan in selling those shares. Oracle has about $500,000 in cash. And then besides that, myself and other insiders own approximately further 10% of the shares. So, and a couple of institutions, insiders collectively own around 20 million shares in addition to the 40 million shares held by Oracle. So 60 out of the 140 million shares are held by insiders.
Very good. And final question, might you organize an investor site tour of the CTV Fluorspar projects in 2026?
We've been looking into that. The company made an internal site visit 6 weeks ago in October, and right now I think the company we're at the stage where investors like yourself, Robert, is only starting to learn a bit about fluorspar. Certainly, a site visit would be conducted in 2026 as we gather a bit more momentum, getting some institutional investors, some of the analysts, some of the consumer end users, industrial end users, and also as well as the company management to make a concerted site visit. But right now, when we went there, like I said, the district is actually better than we ever anticipated. I mean, there is fluorspar everywhere that's visible on surface, and a number of abandoned shafts of which you can literally stare down and see additional fluorspar's presence.
John, thank you so much for your time. Cheers.
Thank you.